The April 16th, 2026 meeting of the Mountain View Wisman Board of Trustees will please come to order. It is 6:00 p.m. We're meeting tonight in the boardroom at 1400 Montecito Avenue, Mountain View, California. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube, Zoom, and on MVWSD.org and is being recorded. I'll now form the roll call.
Bill Lambert.
Devin Conley.
Anna Reed.
Charles DeFazio. Trustee Vice President Henry is absent and will be joining us shortly. So please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led tonight by Montaloma Elementary. Thank you. Oh, we have. Oops.
Megan, you have a couple of minutes anyhow till we get to you.
Yeah, we have to approve the agenda and then we'll get to you. So let's see. Before we proceed with the agenda, I wish to remind all attendees that the board welcomes and encourages public participation. We ask that all speakers adhere to the decorum and time limits established by our bylaws. I'll allocate time during each item for public comments as we see how many speakers we have. Next item of business is the approval of the meeting agenda. Any requests from superintendent or board members to pull reorder? Okay. I'll now open public comment on the approval of the agenda. If anyone wishes to address the board regarding this item, please turn in a speaker card. And if you're online, use the raise hand function. I'll wait to see how many speakers we have. All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
A second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously with Vice President Henry absent. Now, move to item 2 on our agenda, the school showcase. We are pleased to feature Montaloma Elementary. Superintendent Bear, would you like to introduce the school?
Yes, love to introduce Ms. Megan Jinguji, principal at Montaloma, and I see plenty of leopards here, so we're interested to hear what's happening at Montaloma.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Bear. I'm Megan Jinguji, and I'm the proud principal of Montaloma Elementary. And with me this evening, I have our counselor, Mr. Joe, and our STEAM teacher, Mrs. Chuang. Both of them have been instrumental in supporting a positive and encouraging program for our recess time. But before we get started, what I would like to do is present no, it's okay. That today we had a celebration for our military students. And so our military students are an important part of our school community. And we have 55 students that belong to the Moffett Field community and attend Montaloma. And the month of May is the month of the military child, and it's celebrated across our country in celebration of the perseverance and courage that these students face and demonstrate as they work through having their parents deployed, moves, making new friends at new schools. And they're an important part of our school and contribute in many positive ways. And we celebrated them today with a reception this morning, and also an assembly where we recognize each and every one of them with their families there, and then Major Matt Miller, who presented certificates to each and every one of them. Something that I want to share that I learned today from Major Miller is that dandelions are representative of our military children. And he shared today that dandelions can bloom anywhere that life takes them. On a sidewalk, in the middle of a playground, in our fields, and our military kids are like dandelions. Whether you're blown to a new house, country, or a new school, you not only grow, you bloom. And you make that place a better place just by being there. We're grateful for our military students, families, and they each make Montaloma a better place. Next, I'm going to turn it over to both Mr. Joe and Mrs. Chuang to share their work in implementing our RAD program. They are both exceptional leaders who really took an idea, ran with it, and created a great program to build leadership in our students and create a more positive place for all kids.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm here to present and introduce all of our pictures as you see up on our slideshow. This is our 3rd through 5th grade RAD leaders. So we have students throughout everyone, and we have some amazing speakers with us, all from our 4th grade class. If you want to click through the slideshow for me, please. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. I'm excited to introduce them, and they're going to be here to talk about our RAD role today and all of the impact they have on our campus.
When we launched the program, we started with students who had recommendations for showing strong leadership skills and be consistent role models. These are students who are really passionate about making a difference and helping others in our community. They all went through a training program. They learned about younger children. They learned consistent rules to recess games, and they role played ways to help lead conflict resolution. We now have a process for any other students who want to join our program. They go through a training program and they shadow an experienced leader before joining the team.
We work mostly with kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade students. We help organize games, invite students to play, and make sure no one feels left out. Sometimes kids don't know what to play or who to play with, and that's where we come in. We help bring people together. Being a RAD leader means we're helpful leaders and role models all at the same time.
As RAD leaders, we make an important commitment to our school. RAD stands for Recess Activity Director. Our job is to help make recess fair, fun, and for everyone. We promise to be positive role models by showing kindness and respect. We stay calm and patient even when things get tricky. We make sure everyone feels included, especially students who might feel left out. We also make sure we prepare we are on time and prepare for our shifts because other students are counting on us. And when something is too big for us to handle, we ask an adult for help. Being a RAD leader is not just about playing, it's about leading in the right way.
One of our biggest jobs is leading games at recess. We show students how to play games the right way by explaining the rules and modeling them. We also teach teamwork by encouraging students to share, take turns, and support each other. If someone is doing a great job being kind or a good teammate, we make sure to recognize them. That helps build a positive playground. We want everybody to feel successful, included, and proud of how they are playing. When games are fair and organized, recess becomes more fun for everybody.
At recess, problems happen all the time, and we help students solve them. There are 3 different ways that we coach students into solving their problems. Rosham shows a quick way to decide when there is a disagreement. Our whole school does Rosham show the same way, so it can be done quickly. When there is a small problem, students can use Kelso's wheel to choose 2 different solutions. When there are big problems, students or RAD leaders can get an adult to help safely solve the problem. Our goal is to help students solve problems peacefully and keep playing.
Here is the Kelso's wheel that TK and kindergarteners students use to make a choice of how to solve a problem. Here is the 1st through 5th grade Kelso's wheel, where students are encouraged to make 2 choices. Students that are in a conflict will try 2 of the solutions that they both agree on. And if it does not solve the conflict, It then goes to an adult for support. As rad leaders, we had the opportunity to present to different grade level groups to teach all students about our role as leaders, how to solve small and big problems using Koso's wheel and Roshan show. We took turns presenting and engaging students in role play scenarios to decide if a problem was big or small and what choices could be made to solve the problem.
We check the schedule in our classroom, remind our teacher that we will be heading to our shift, and eat lunch when the younger students eat. After eating in the multi during kindergarten through second grade lunch, sitting with the other rattlers, politely remind the adults that you will need to leave a few minutes early. Then, when we walk to the blacktop closet, put on our vesting lane, then set up our castles with boards and game station. During the games, we invite other students to play while making sure all games are fair, fun for everyone. After recess, we clean up all the equipment, return everything neatly, and make sure our space is organized. Being a rally leader takes responsibility, teamwork, and leadership, and we are proud to do it.
One of the big things we wanted to talk about is the sustainment of the program as well. So for all of our leaders, third through fifth grade, we're not only following up with the students as a role model outside of the Rad Leader Rest, but we're also following up with our teachers in constant communication to ensure they're showing up as examples within the classroom and showing up as examples even when they're out on the blacktop. And one of those aspects is making sure they're following through with all the requirements we've asked, right? Making sure that we're looking as all examples for everyone. And as well, we want to check in with our rad leaders. We like to do periodic check-ins with our students, offer in-session or in-the-moment training if needed, as well as providing check-ins for them to fill out surveys and to tell us how they're feeling within their role, any preferences, as well as just letting us anything they want, or letting us know anything else they want about the role as well. And the biggest thing that we want to emphasize, we're just so proud of the students here, right? They've continued to meet expectations and rise to the occasion, which has been so impressive to see on all of the adults ends on the school, because you can see there's a need and they're filling it. They're helping out all the students and creating a culture here on the campus that's extremely important to make sure all of the students can create that community feeling.
All right. Well, that concludes our presentation. I wanted to say thank you to our fourth graders. They have really set the stage for the future of Montaloma, and we're excited to have them be leaders as fifth graders next year. And a huge thank you to Mr. Joe and Mrs. Chuang for their leadership. It takes a village, and they are really doing amazing work with our students, not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. So thank you for having us this evening.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, thank you to the students and staff for sharing with us tonight. I'll now call for a brief 5-minute recess to allow for photos and for folks to exit before board moves on to more technical business. We are back from our recess. We're on to item 3, opportunities for members of the public. Opportunities for members of the public to address the board concerning items on the closed session agenda. Any member of the public wish to speak in person regarding this item, please turn in a speaker card. Anyone online, please use the raise hand function. I'll wait to see how many speakers we have. Seeing none, floor is now closed to public comment on the closed session agenda. The board will now recess to closed session at 6:18 p.m. The board has reconvened in open session at 7:10 PM. During closed session, the board took the following reportable action. On item number B1 on the closed session agenda, by a vote of 5 yeas to zero nays, the board approved an expulsion for student 600190009 through April 16th, 2027. There's no other reportable action.
President DeFazio, just clarity that it was C1, yes?
Oh, sorry, apologies, C1. We now move to the consent agenda. These items are considered routine and will be acted upon in one motion. Does any board member wish to remove an item for separate consideration? All right, seeing none. And I'll take public comment on the consent agenda. If anyone in person wishes to speak on the consent agenda, please turn in a speaker card. If anyone online, use the raise hand function. I'll wait to see how many speakers we have to allocate time. Seeing no one online and one speaker in person, I'll give 3 minutes. First up, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Yes, I had a comment on the approval of schematic design for the fiber optics replacement. This is about a $2 million project. Part of it, it says, is the main purpose is to make the bandwidth higher. But you guys have just changed direction from when John was first working on this. It was more than a year ago, I think, when you first came on the board. And one of the things is Graham, of course, is a higher level and more internet usage site. But the other elementary sites, you guys have given the direction to decrease the amount of computer use that's going to happen in the lowest half of those grades. So one of the things is you might look at pulling the elementary schools from this schematic design and this build, because if you're tight on budget and those fibers are still working and the routers that plug into those cables are still working, you should have a bunch of leftover from the ones that were replaced. And you can see in a couple of years how it's your new idea of not having kids doing stuff on their own as second graders in classrooms may end up being there's much less of a bandwidth. You also should actually look at how bandwidth is being used. Change order on the outdoor learning. One of the things is it's taking money because the architects didn't look that there were pipes buried under the ground. Vargas actually has new drawings because it was only done 7 years ago. So it has new construction drawings on where the pipes were. So if there's an error on the part of construction management and construction design, which is the landscape architects, if they're going to put something down into the ground, it's their responsibility, I think, profession, that to find there aren't any pipes there, because maybe they could just have shifted those ball walls. I'll send you pictures of the ball wall that's been there for at least 20 years at what used to be Huff and is a Mai, and it can be done very simply rather than a very complicated, large footing. So that's another thing I hope you guys look at and ask your construction management to take better care of. That's all. I had something else, but it's not that important. I think I already wrote you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes unanimously. We now move to section 7 on the agenda, communications. First, invite any employee organizations. Seeing none present. District committees. Do we have any updates from district committees? Trustee Lambert.
Yes, I attended probably what will be the penultimate CHAC meeting last Wednesday. We're very close to closing the services, really just balancing the books and, making sure any outstanding sort of debt and things is sort of consolidated. Probably have a meeting toward the end of June, hopefully, and so we don't have to file a tax return for the next year, but if not, it will close it up in probably mid-July. Good thing is that as the check was dissolving, we received a grant from Santa Clara County, so the district will be receiving some money and be distributed to all the joint power members. So
Thank you.
Jeff knows about, Superintendent Bear knows about that.
Thank you. Any other district committees? Yeah, finally, Superintendent Bear for the superintendent's report.
Yeah, just a few items. Yesterday, we had an energizing, inspiring day with our principals, administrators, and some teachers training with Orenda on the MVWSD way. The MVWSD way, which you'll hear about a bit later in the agenda, is our collective identity as educators in Mountain View Wisman and how we serve students with the highest quality educational experience. And based on our work with Orenda, that will continue to evolve and improve. Some of the areas of focus right now are standards-aligned instruction with clear expectations and rigor, and using common assessments to monitor progress and provide timely data to inform instruction. We'll be incorporating the findings from our recent system study, and that'll be essential to improving the academic outcomes for all of our students, particularly the most vulnerable. So again, we anticipate meeting again with Orenda to continue that work. Congrats go out to all the students who entered the district-wide film festival, district-wide contest, Spotlight on Solutions. The film screening was held last night, and it showcased 16 short films that explore real-world problems and showcase inspiring solutions. 4 films and their creators were selected as finalists, and the film SOS by Kavya, Olivia, and Agnes was selected the winner. So congrats to all and well done. And finally, as Principal Chinguchi mentioned earlier, I was honored to be present for Monte Loma's celebration of the military child today. It was a great event at Monte Loma. It's important and fitting that we recognize the children of our military families who are part of our community and honor the sacrifices they make and their families make. It was a sea of purple in the Monte Loma multi, which is selected because it's a combination of all the colors of all the branches of the military. And I was taken by what Megan said as well, and I just thought it was so fitting, right? That idea of the dandelion being the symbolic flower of the military child, because they really do bloom anywhere they root themselves. So congrats to all of them. That's it.
Thank you. I will now take public comment on item 7, communications. Any member of the public wishing to speak in person, turning a speaker card, and online, use the raise hand function. I'll see how many speakers we have. Seeing none online and no one in person, the floor is now closed to public comment. Now we will open the floor to community comments on items not appearing on tonight's agenda. Please remember that the Brown Act prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. Trustees or staff may briefly respond to clarify facts, or you may direct the superintendent to agendize the matter for a future meeting. I will see if anyone in person wants to turn in a speaker card. I will take those, and then online use the raise hand function, and then I will allocate time once I see. I have 2 cards in person and 1 online. No one online, so I will give 3 minutes per person. First up is Ms. Moss.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Allison Moss, and I'm the Community Grants Fellow at Silicon Valley Clean Energy, known as SVCE. SVCE is a public not-for-profit agency that provides clean electricity for residents and businesses across 13 Silicon Valley communities. And part of our mission is to reinvest in the communities we serve by making clean energy alternatives to fossil fuels more feasible and affordable, which is what I'm here to speak to tonight. I'm excited to share the news that SVCE recently launched a new funding opportunity for schools, its community grants program. And the grant provides a total of $3.2 million in capital funding for community serving entities and SVCE service territory to support all electric facilities upgrades. $2.2 million of that total is allocated exclusively to fund projects led by schools. Some example projects include removing gas appliances and installing electric heat pump water heaters, HVACs to increase efficiency, adding solar and battery storage to buildings to create reliable backup power during outages and increase cost savings, and purchasing electric vehicles and installing related infrastructure to lower emissions and improve air quality. SBCE wants to make the transition to all electric accessible for schools so that students, teachers, staff, and guardians can experience the benefits of electric technologies. To increase accessibility, we're also really excited to offer technical assistance as part of this grant program to help awardees navigate the project planning and implementation. And there is no match funding required to apply. If you'd like additional details on eligibility and project requirements, they're listed in the grant application, which can be found on the SVCE solicitations webpage at svcleanenergy.org/solicitations. And we also had a pre-application webinar today at 3 p.m. and you can find the link to the recording for that on the same webpage. I encourage you to please forward this information to your schools. And if you have any questions, feel free to email solicitations@svcleanenergy.org. I appreciate your time tonight, and we at SVCE appreciate all the work that you do and look forward to continuing to support the schools in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. Nelson. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to talk about this new mantra that I heard introduced at the last meeting. It seems like even though their end report says narrow the focus, like on page 72, and talks about all the overlapping that there is for jobs and responsibilities and programs, and we would call that a mixed up focus if it was in optics, in physics. And I was really surprised because I first heard the superintendent say this mantra, and the mantra is a focus on the floor and ceiling. And I definitely can't walk around with my focus on the ceiling and not trip over stuff. So I'm wondering when we're going to be chanting this new mantra, because it seems to be not a singular focus, not narrowing the focus, but expanding it in 2 directions. And I would like you to remember what the floor is. It means the floor for core instruction. It was there as a responsibility. You can look at page 70 or 47, and it's talking about the floor or grade level core instruction expectations as defined by SBAC. There's a couple of places where this tome or booklet talks about what they mean by the floor. They're talking about the floor of standards. And what they're saying here is meeting the floor means that all students were trying to get them up to meeting the standard. I don't know what you're referring to as the ceiling, but it isn't really explained in this report. So it must be something that you have to teach us what it means. I think it's a mistake to say we're going to focus on the ceiling, because the floor, below the floor, there's one basement. Kids that need extra help can be done with different. And then there's a sub basement. Kids that are 2 and 3 years behind the standard. The standard is the floor, the grade level expectation. But we have lots of kids, especially the Hispanic and the economically disadvantaged, that are in the sub basement. So if you're walking around with your focus on the ceiling, and the kids, a lot of these kids are in the sub basement, what's happened to them? You've spread your energy to a focus on the floor and a focus on the ceiling, and 2 focus are called foci, not focus. Oh, ask some Latin teacher what the plural of focus is. So you have a foci now on the floor and the ceiling.
Thank you. Next. So we will now move on to discussion and action. Item 9A, MVWSD Way. This is a discussion item only. No action will be taken tonight. I'll ask Director Wen to present the staff report.
All right. Good evening, board. Thanks for allowing me to be here today. The presentation tonight is in response to the board's request to learn about the MVWSD way. So the objectives in this presentation are, one, to describe kind of the origin story of the MVWSD way and kind of how we've lived it this year, but also to talk about how the MVWSD way is evolving relative to all that we have learned from Arenda and what we're going to do moving forward so that we can be better for our students, right? We've been pretty lucky. We've been able to have a few sessions with Arenda already to help us understand the work moving forward. And as Superintendent Bayer was talking about, we had a really great day yesterday with 40 folks in this room, teachers, principals, administrators. It was really energizing to realize, okay, we've got some good practices to build upon, but we know where we need to go, and we know kind of where we missed the mark before. And so it feels really energizing to realize, okay, this is the path moving forward. And so we'll talk through that tonight. So the MVWSD way is rooted in the strategic plan, the idea that we want to make sure that every student meet all their needs to reach grade level, right, or above. And so what is the MVWSD way? It's a synthesis of all of everything that we've been studying, right? So instructional practices, research-based practices, evidence-based practices. It's a way to synthesize all of that learning, all of that information. And so it comes from what we've been learning through about cognitive science or the science of learning. It comes from John Hattie's meta-analyses of lots of educational research that gives the effect size of different instructional strategies for students. It comes from the framework of MTSS. It comes from what we know about effective instruction for multilingual learners through SIOP. It comes from what we've learned through the science of reading, which is also right cognitive science and how the brain learns, and the frameworks around professional learning communities. Those are all the basis for the MVWSD way. Again, a synthesis of our learning. And it's a set of standard operating procedures. Again, the synthesis of all we've been learning. How we operate in Mountain View when we talk about instruction, right? These are the evidence-based practices that we use to instruct students. These are the ways that we collect data, analyze data. And it's changing, right? It's evolving. This is, I'll talk about how we've been implementing the MVWSD way thus far, but as we've been learning more, then we know better, we do better, right? And so we're doing better moving forward. It's also the way that we identify ourselves as educators. We're building this collective identity of who we are as MVWSD educators. And like I had mentioned before, it's rooted in our strategic plan, right? Our strategic plan already outlines beliefs that we have about learning and students. And so because we believe that students and learning are at the center of what we do, because we believe that students thrive when given experiences that challenge academic and social needs, because we believe that learning experiences engage students in academic excellence, because we believe that high expectations and continuous learning create a positive educational environment, and because we believe that leadership based around research-backed instructional elements is key to transforming schools, then we know that our instruction needs to be standards aligned, responsive, relevant, explicit, and equitable. Again, the synthesis of all that we know about effective teaching and learning. And if we kind of expand on what each of those 5 elements mean, we're talking about standards aligned. It means that we align every objective to the rigor of the California state standards. Students know what they will be able to do and how they will demonstrate their learning. We're responsive. We continuously monitor student understanding and adjust our instruction. Relevant, we value the diverse wealth of our students and communities' experiences. Explicit, we clearly define vocabulary, explain concepts, and model the thinking and skills needed for students to grow as scholars. Equitable, we ensure the high achievement of all students through intentional planning. And this MVWSD way, we've had these 5 elements for the last few years, but we've slightly altered some of the language expanding on, specifically in standards aligned. We added the part about we align every objective to the rigor of the California state standards. We didn't have that part before in learning through Arenda. The importance is we can't just align to what the curriculum says is the objective. We need to know what the standard says and the rigor of the standard as measured by the SBAC, right? The test that students take to show their understanding of standards. So that part we revised based on the learning that we've done with Arenda. what that has looked like this school year with the MVWSD way in practice is that our PD has been around the MVWSD way, right? Really building up instructional strategies with our teaching staff so that we all have a pretty robust toolbox of strategies to pull out, instructional practices to pull out to use with our students. So when we go out to site visits and we collaborate as a leadership team, it's around the MVWSD way and the framework. Our PD focus when we've had our district-wide days have been around the MVWSD way, specifically around standards alignment with writing, especially in the elementary schools, responsive and equitable instruction through the data cycles, and responsive instruction for multilingual learners. So again, a lot of our work this year has been the writing of language learners, in fact, and then what we can do to support their writing. Each of our school sites also took one of the elements and looked at their student data, looked at their the skills of their teaching staff, the strengths of their teaching staff, and then chose an area in which to focus their site-based PD. So like at Castro, majority of students multilingual learners, so they knew that they needed to focus in on explicit vocabulary instruction. So Principal Taylor and Coach Santiago, their PD at Castro has really been about shoring up explicit vocabulary instruction. Whereas at Graham, with the middle school students, they realized we need to set up really intentional opportunities for kids to deepen their learning through student-to-student interactions, for equitable access, and for kids to own their learning, right? And kids to talk about what they're learning. So their focus in PD has really been about equitable opportunities for student-to-student talk. We've also been talking about the MVWSD way as a framework for how we lesson plan and deliver. We want to make sure that we're thinking about all of these elements as we lesson plan, right? Being responsive to our students, making sure that it's relevant, and that we are explicitly teaching what needs to be taught so that students can then further and deepen their learning. And as I mentioned before, it's growing our collective identity as educators. Like, who are we as Mountain View Wisman School District teachers? This is who we are, right? And as I had mentioned before, it's evolving, right? We do what we know is best at the time. And as we continue to learn more, we continue to do better. And so with Arenda, we have taken the findings and are going through the recommendations from Arenda. And the key part that they talk about working on first is really honing in on core first instruction and being very clear on what grade level expectations mean as defined by SBAC and the standards, right? And then ensuring that the entire organization is clear on that. And the way that works is what we had learned yesterday with Arenda is that after we study the SBAC, we study the blueprints for the SBAC, we understand the level of rigor that's required for each of those things. And then collectively, every single teacher in the organization works together to create the kindergarten matrix of these are the essential standards that we say all kindergartners must leave, regardless if you're at Castro, Mistral, Montaloma, every kindergartner, this is what we assess and teach during this period. And every single teacher in that grade level, in that department, agree upon. And this is the way that we will measure students' learning on what we had deemed most important or the most essential for moving on to the next grade level. And so it's, that's where we're focusing for MVWSD way next year on that standards aligned part and really honing in on what standards alignment means through that grade level alignment, that teacher ownership and collective work together to create what it means through the guidance of the SBAC and the rigor of the SBAC. Yeah, so just a super quick overview of the MVWSD way. Happy to answer any questions.
I can just add quickly. Thank you, Cindy. I think one of the things we were reminded of yesterday, I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again, is that the work that that Arenda is talking about, that we are talking about adopting, is not quick fix work, right? It is work that is going to take time, and that we're going to have to invest in our classroom teachers to ensure that they are equipped, they have the understanding, is what Cindy described, what that floor is, and that floor doesn't necessarily dictate what we're going to teach. It's what we're going to assess 5 times a year, right? As a minimum, right?
Thank you for the presentation. See any clarifying questions from the board? Trustee Conley.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'm wondering if you can speak to, and this might be for Ms. Bauer instead, how the MVWSD way you anticipate it being reflected in the school site plans for next year.
So I think our focus next year, as Dr. Nguyen said, is that core instruction in the part of the MVWSD way, which is standards aligned. And so that's what you'll be seeing in the site plans, is that focused work. And just to add to Superintendent Barrett, we'll actually be bringing additional information for you next board meeting on our next steps with the RENDA and our plan for next year. So you'll get plenty more information at the next board meeting.
Great, thank you.
It's a preview that we would like to continue the work with Arenda, and invest in our teacher professional development and really strengthen the backbone of the district for all students. And that'll be an ongoing, as I said, it'll certainly be a 1 year, maybe a 2 year look at that work.
Trustee Lambert.
A quick question. So I think I heard that you say that we really had this Mountain View Way in place for a while. How is this changing at a high level with your interaction with the RENDA?
Yeah, so I think, as I was saying, our focus before was on building like teacher instructional strategies, but the evolution is now focusing in on understanding why we're using these strategies, right? We have to understand what the floor is. We have to understand what those standards are and that alignment. And that's what's different moving forward with the MVWC way.
Right, and you see this.
And one of the, if I can just add to
Yeah.
that, one of the things that Cindy mentioned also was, in addition to understanding the standard, right, and what we are going to expect as a minimum, it's also important to understand how that translates into the test the students take at the end of the year, right? And if we believe we're teaching about topic sentences, right? Are we asking our students to demonstrate their knowledge on topic sentences and their mastery of topic sentences in the same way and at the same level of rigor that they're going to see on that test at the end of the year, right? That's really important because we could think we're teaching it really well, but if we're assessing in a way and in a particular way, and the students then see it in a different way that asks about the same concept in a very different way, we're putting them at a disadvantage, right?
Go ahead.
Vice President Henry.
I might be getting ahead of things to what may be coming in the next board meeting. But I noticed, for example, you mentioned that the language defining standards aligned, for example, had been updated. Kind of as you make those updates to kind of definitions within MVWSD way, is there kind of a reveal planned or a, like, how do you, or kind of like the way that I guess that you would communicate that to teachers of this has the way you see that piece of it as it changes, kind of how you get that out to the teachers.
Yeah, I mean, next year, all of us in August, we're going full force into this. And so that's the opportunity, right?
Part of the intent of yesterday was building some initial understanding with our leadership and with a core set of teachers to gauge their reception to it, right? Their understanding of it, and just build that first layer of knowledge, right? So that we can have that footing as we go out to our entire district, right? And as I said, the reception was very positive, it made a whole lot of sense, and they're excited to dig into the work themselves.
I guess maybe this is a preview for the coming meetings, but How do you think about how the MVWSD way fits into the strategic planning that we're talking about coming up, right? Is this basically like the instructional pillar of that? And then, or is it not line up there? I don't know.
I think that as we looked to build our strategic plan, it's going to be rooted out of the Arenda report, but the Arenda report is then rooted in the MVWSD way. So I think they all tie together. But what we want to remember is the way is going to be influenced and supported by Arenda, but it's going to be the way that the district functions. So yes, it will be a critical component of the strategic plan.
Further questions? All right, with that, I will turn to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak on item 9A, please turn in a speaker card now or use the raise hand function online. Once I see how many speakers we have, I will allocate time accordingly. Let's see, one person in person and no members of the public online. So we have 3 minutes. The first speaker is Mr. Nelson.
That's right. And I forgot to remember to wear my retired badge. The essence of the failures of the way, just because there are decades of research, does not mean that practitioners and adopters like Educational Services Group can successfully and efficiently apply those theories and example practices. This is what the Arenda System Study report found for Mountain View Westman. Much work, much caring, but very poor results for a large segment of students, 1/3, the Hispanic or the SED, doing academically worse than expected for 99% of similarly advantaged California districts. More than a decade of comparative research of similar districts shows the same result as the Arenda System Study found. It is not true that, quote, every student receives a high quality premium education. As the presentation said on page 4. It would be nice, but saying so does not make it so. The Arenda System Study found this LEA in its strategic plan had common areas of administration and of management. The presentation, page 5, quote, because we believe our instruction is. The Arenda System Study particularly found that, I'd say, the responsive and equitable claims are not true. They are just actually wishes. Aspirational in the plan, but not actually working when you view our results. As Arenda did for $250,000, and as Professor Reardon's Education Equity Research Group at Stanford has done, including our district since 2009. The presentation touching on equitable, quote, we ensure the high achievement of all students through intentional planning. The educational reservoir, what's it really holding? What a damn lie. This dam is not holding. Because the reservoir is not holding knowledge for Hispanics and economically disadvantaged subgroups, and yet educational services insist that there is little or no leaking learning for these subgroups. The dam, D-A-M. This dam is not holding, just not holding. It's failing. It's been leaking more and more. SBAC losses over the last 4 years are very clear, and yet they've been ignored by this group of leaders.
Thank you. Now return to the board for discussion. Trustee Lambert.
It sounds like we're going to have a more comprehensive presentation next board meeting, but I think this very brief presentation that Director Nguyen gave us is really very useful. Just sort of to keep the momentum going, keep the board informed, and just don't lose sight of it. Keep the focus. And so I would, appreciate seeing, these brief little presentations more often.
Do you read?
I wanted to highlight the massive amount of work that it sounds like is already going on. Grade level collaboration on essential standards. If you've never done that work, that's a lot of work, and that's not simple work. That's not, we're going to get together, we're going to decide on these essential standards, and then we're going to implement it. And by next month, we'll be good to go. This is years worth of collaboration and testing and retesting and redefining. And the results of this work isn't going to be something we're going to see soon, but it's very necessary work. And the fact that we already have teacher leaders excited and volunteering to do this work, and then who will be excited to go back to their school sites and share that work, that's a great start. Paring down standards to a minimum of things that are essential and really focused on testing is difficult. There's a lot of standards in every single subject at every single grade level, and this is a massive undertaking, and there aren't enough professional development days and hours in a school year to really focus on this and say, hey, by next year we'll be set, and by the next round of tests those results will be fantastic. That's not within the scope of what this work is, but I'm so glad to see that it started, and it started so quickly. And there's so many people who, after seeing the Arenda report, are volunteering to sign up and to join and to want to be the change. So I agree with what other trustees said, and more reports like this just to kind of keep us apprised of how things are going and what staff is feeling about it, how we're involving teachers and other staff at all the levels and not just management, kind of how it's all rolling out as this progresses, because this is something that's going to take a while for us to see the results for.
Trustee Conley.
And thank you, Trustee Reed, for your comments. I very much agree. I think when we're going through a change process, the Arenda report is kind of the seed of that change. And before that, bringing in a new superintendent is a seed of great change in any district. And I'm glad to see that staff is invested in the Arenda report and its findings and how to move forward. I think the board has reiterated over and over again that we're very invested in taking action on the findings from the Arenda report. And I'm glad to see that community members also appear to be invested in the Arenda report findings as well, because this is what is driving the work now. And having presentations like this, I agree with Trustee Lambert and Trustee Reed, does highlight for the community the work that is being done and that's already been done, but where we're trying to go and continuing to bring that back. I'd love to see, not to put anyone on the spot, I'd love to have teachers at some point presenting about the work they're doing in their cohorts to develop these essential standards, for example. Or even principals talking about it as well, so we can hear from different layers within the organization as we move forward.
Yeah, I think when I was reviewing the documents ahead of time, I think I had the same kind of thoughts that I think my colleagues here had, right? Like, there's a lot of work to be done, and like we're a lot of hard work. And I think, right, we have our roadmap that goes out to 2032, 33. SBAC tests come annually. We get those updates on reports. I was trying to think through, and I think structuring how we would get some updates from staff on how this is progressing. So maybe we can, I don't know, I was thinking quarterly might be a nice time, or even more frequently. I don't know, whatever works. But I think with maybe some leading indicators that you have, like how we're progressing through like the hard work of making a standards alignment, like how many grade level teams are completed with that. I defer to staff to figure out what's the important things here. I know, I can't determine which is better of Hattie's meta-analysis or anything like that, but I do want us to have some high level view of the progress in like the really, really quick time that we've got ahead of us. And I think that would be, I'd love to see more of these kind of engagement. And I think then also Trustee Conley, like the ground level teachers, how they're actually processing it too, I think pairs those things well, where we get the big picture and then really like micro focus on how that's like affecting students and with them. So Vice President Henry.
And I just want to thank you for the presentation, and I appreciate that it's kind of an awkward growing phase point to be giving this presentation, where you're giving us the background of it, but also seeing the future of it, and the core of, for me, of the importance that we have this information from Orinda, but what you're talking about going forward is how does that become part of our identity as Mountain View Wisman School District, not just things that came from the outside, but what's coming forward. And I appreciate hearing about the excitement and of the meeting yesterday and how many people teachers were interested in being part of that effort, because that is a statement on their belief in all of you that this really will move forward, that they are willing to put their time and energy into this project.
I just had one more thing, which I think Anna's comment, Trustee Reed's comment on the difficulty of the work. I want to make sure that we view this as kind of a consolidation of the work that folks are doing, like the existing stuff that we already have in place. We're lining it behind this and protecting us from the Christmas tree effect that we noted. So it's like a governance team. I think it's important for us to probably make sure we're asking all these folks to do lots of hard work, not to pull them away for the, are well-intentioned, but sometimes pulls them off of their target. I think it's a good standard for us to hold ourselves to, of like, we need folks to keep this investment that they have in it and maintain that going forward. So I want to make sure that the staff knows they have our support in that. All right, with that, any further comments? All right. Thank you again. Now we will move on to item 9B, solar update. This is a discussion item only and no action will be taken tonight. Chief Business Officer Westover will present the staff report.
Good evening, trustees. I have a couple of helpers this evening. Emily Douglas is a parent in our district, but also helped with our solar program. And we also have another little friend that will be helping us. So this was a request from a trustee to have an update on our solar program, kind of how much money we've been saving and the positive results that we've been seeing from the Measure T bond project. So give me just a moment.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for having me this evening, President Fazio and members of the board. My name is Emily Douglas. I work at Optera Energy Services. We were the district's construction, maintenance, monitoring, design, construction, maintenance, and monitoring partner for the solar project. And as Dr. Westover mentioned, I'm a district parent. So I have a fourth grader at Landals, as well as my daughter, Catherine, who's here. She's a kindergartner at Landals this year and was at Mistral for TK last year. Catherine wanted me to show you guys that she drew a picture of how the solar panels work, because she, has snack and eats lunch under them every day. So this is her picture of how solar works. So thanks for having us this evening. We'll go through just a couple of slides of background information about the program. Obviously aligned with a key element of the strategic plan. And I'll just go through a couple items. So these were the main pillars or goals when we set out on this project in 2020, the year she was born. And the key goal, first and foremost, of course, was to use Measure T funds to generate substantial and stable savings to the general fund. And you'll see tonight that the district is well on the way to that from what we've seen. As well, it helps upgrade the campuses, provides a nice shade amenity for a lot of the campuses where we were able to put it on the playground. This picture here is at Landals at sort of sunset when I was picking up my son one day. And many of the sites have good shade out of the canopies. And I'm sorry, that one's on mine, not Landals. Of course, the other goals that the district gets out of it, in addition to the core fiscal savings, are advancing sustainability goals, and then putting some of the district's spaces and assets to use. So those were the key goals we set out together. The design philosophy, it's important to go through a little bit of why we put things where we did and why they're as big as they are, essentially, why they're sized the way they are. So the goals we went into the design with were to provide shade and equity across all sites. We took a lot of principal and site feedback and community feedback at the time of the design process. I think maybe first a little bit in person, and then definitely lots of online meetings in 2020 to get that feedback. And then our engineers were keeping an eye on where to put the systems and which angle to put them at to orient them to maximize the amount of sun they could capture and avoid hazards, so we wouldn't have baseballs falling on them, things like that, and then avoid shade from a lot of the great trees that many of the district sites have. Each site has a solar system size that's typically right about 80% of the annual energy usage. So we design the size of the system at each site to offset about 80% of what a site uses over the course of a year. And we do that because that's the best ROI. That's the best return on the capital the district had to invest based on how PG&E and SVCE reimburse the district essentially for the energy produced. It means over the course of a summer day, when the district sites are empty, the district is wheeling the meter backwards quite quickly, net producing back to the grid during the summer. And then in the winter, the district is a net user of energy in any given month, but it kind of balances out such that each site produces not all and not more than its own annual usage, but right about 80%. At the time of construction and interconnecting these systems to the grid, the district received the net energy metering tariff from PG&E, which has a really favorable, basically a favorable spin to the meter and a favorable rate for the district. So it reimburses the district quite well for the times that solar is producing and spins the meter the other way at a nice rate. Those rates are locked in by rule with PG&E for quite a few years off into the future. At the time of the system design, we did evaluate putting batteries at any of the sites. So we looked at whether it made sense to combine solar and batteries. That's pretty common in, say, a residential solar installation right now. It didn't make sense. We ran the numbers on how much more it would cost to install and how much more benefit it would give each district site on the energy bill, and it didn't make sense because the district was getting really good net energy metering rates instead. So solar alone was favorable enough at kind of the best deal the district could get. This is just a brief summary of the system size and location at each of the district sites. So you can see most of the districts are canopies. That's what we call either the parking lot or playground shade structures. A couple of the district sites do have a combination of canopy and rooftop because they needed more than there was canopy space available on the campuses. The canopies are actually more efficient and effective to build typically because they're faster to design and faster to get through the DSA process. And then you get the shade amenity as well. This is an example of the daily production of a solar system and also the utility vision software that monitors the production every day at each district site. So each of those systems has their own monitoring. So you can see in this example, the nice purple curve is because it's a nice sunny day. So this is when the sun rises and the sun sets. That's the amount of production that the site is making, is that purple curve. The blue curve is what the site is using. Folks get there in the morning a little bit before the sun's fully up. And then you can see barely on this version, the yellow dip down below shows that through the middle of the day, the site is net producing energy. So that yellow bump down below the zero line is that there's energy being pushed back to the grid from the site at the peak of production in the middle of the day. This is a summary for the 4 years for most sites to date of what the district has seen. So now we're getting into what has happened since we installed the systems and how they're producing. The first 6 or 7 rows have 4 years worth of production. So most sites that had canopies that were built the fastest, approved through DSA the fastest, have all been operating now for 4 years. So you can see there's 4 columns of kilowatt hour electron production, energy production for those 4 sites. You will notice that at Castro Mistral in year 4, the production fell off quite a bit. So there was an electrical issue, and we had to get some new gear essentially to replace some electrical equipment there and get the system back online. So it was offline for a while. I'll explain a little more next that the maintenance and the monitoring that the district has, but there probably will be a shortfall in the guarantee for that Castro Mistral site in year 4. But the rest of the sites are all producing as expected as they go. The 3 sites on the bottom, so Crittenden, Montaloma, and Therakoff, all completed construction a little later because they had rooftops that are slower to design and get approved and get constructed. So they've only completed 3.5 years of production. So you can see the data is not there in the bottom corner of the table. They're in a different guarantee phase. So they have a little bit less data, but they're producing all as expected. Go to the next. So to get to the return that the district has had, I mentioned guarantee. So at the time of the contract, the district signed an energy guarantee contract as well. So we guaranteed the output of the systems. And that comes with an expected value of the electrons produced. So the previous page showed the kilowatt hours that had been produced. And then that contract included that we expect those electrons are worth 22.3 kilowatt hour cents per kilowatt hour in year 1, and then that escalates. So of course, we've all seen our PG&E rates going up quite a lot. And so the expected value is escalating each year of that energy produced. So you can see in the first year, based on the actual energy production in year 1 from all the systems, the district saved about $595,000 on the PG&E bill, $600,000, and then in year 3, it's $582,000 with that escalation. All of these together, the district has already saved sort of 3.5 years in, the district has already saved $2.1 million in energy costs to date. From having these systems installed based on the actual production that's been measured out of the meters at each of those sites. And that's only going to go up as PG&E rates keep going up. So finally, the final item I just wanted to make sure that the board members were aware of is that this does also include a monitoring and maintenance scope. So ongoing monitoring and maintenance to ensure that the systems are producing as expected, to see if anything, to see when things go wrong. Flag when something has gone wrong. That could be that something in the solar system has had a fault. Sometimes the inverters, which are the boxes that you see up on the solar arrays, sometimes they just trip off and need to be tripped back on. And sometimes something actually goes wrong with them and you need to replace them. So there's monitoring, monthly reporting data to district staff, as well as an annual review of the production overall. There is annual module cleaning included in the plan as well, just to make sure the modules continue to produce as expected. I will occasionally also call our O&M team and say, I noticed that there's like a hula hoop up on one of them, so maybe we should do our cleaning sooner, just because when I'm on the sites. But one item up on one panel is not, it doesn't make a big difference across the whole array, but the annual cleaning, usually kind of at the beginning of the summer, makes a difference in the production each year. And then there's a certain number of other sort of preventative maintenance items that happen at the same time to make sure everything's working well in the systems. So that's all included already in the plan that the district had from 2020. So we'll take any questions you have.
Trustee Lambert?
So I seem to recall when these solar arrays were installed that the district was estimating about a 15-year break-even point when all the maintenance and everything was lumped together. Are we on track to meet that, whatever that break-even point was?
Yes, yeah, the production is essentially a little bit across the district, a little bit above the expected output overall. So yes, on track from the plan at the time of approval. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going back through like the way back in 2020 when we had all of our like the initial stuff for this. Did we ever at the end of construction redo I think we had like a 25-year savings analysis from Sage Energy. Do we do something similar like that after it was built out? Because I think it like, I don't think we had significant construction cost increase when I looked at it. It was like moderate for a big project, seemed not terrible, but I was wondering if we ever like reran that just to see like where it landed or if we've done that yet.
You know, we didn't have Sage do that. That would be in addition to their contract. If it's something that we really wanted to have done, we could re-engage Sage and have them run it. But I think just from like estimating point of view, because PG&E costs have increased so drastically, yes, we did have slight increases, but I think the rate of PG&E has outpaced that.
There's just one other thing. I think in that we also, and maybe things changed over the course of it, but I think we assumed some set aside for like inverter replacements and what else was it? Decommissioning, I think like inverter replacements in year 12, I think was in the model. I don't know if we've been like pre-funding that as a set aside or anywhere that's actually, or is that something that like we know is coming at some point and we'll have to pay for? Sorry, I should have submitted these ahead of time. I apologize.
So it's included in our maintenance budget each year. So they don't seem to all go out at once, but we do have to make repairs that are already included in our maintenance budget.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? I enjoy this topic. Now we'll move on to public comment. So any members of the public wishing to speak on this item, please in person, turn in a speaker card, and online, please use the raise hand function. Check to see how many speakers we have. Seeing no one online and one member of the public in person. So I'll give 3 minutes. I'll start with Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. I was on the board when we approved the MURs at the middle schools so that their roofs were metal roofs and they were supposed to be set up to face to have hardware on them to be able to put the panels on, but apparently that wasn't used at the middle schools, unfortunately. One thing I want to know, I perfectly understand why batteries don't make any sense. And the reason because we have one-to-one payback when we dump electricity kilowatt hours into the grid, we get paid exactly as much as the same as when we use it. But what I would like to know is related to this, because when we put in the solar, he said, we're going to have so much energy that they put in the EV charging stations. And I really would like to know as part of the compensation that the benefits, if you ever noticed, we have some of the public looking at what the benefits are for our highest paid administrators. And are those administrators getting free kilowatt hours when they plug their EVs into the plugs that are run by the solar panels? Right, that's a good question because we have administrative members that are getting over $100,000 in benefits when the average teacher is getting on 70,000, 75,000. So one of the questions, are we overpaying benefits and are the only benefits going to people who are wealthy enough to have an EV that they can plug in and get free energy? In the past, if you had administrators drive up to the fuel station at your district and they took free gasoline to put in their car and drove home, people get indicted for that kind of use. So what are we doing about actually turning on? So our administrators that are using these plugins, and it's fine they get a preferential parking place next to the plug-in if they have an EV, but shouldn't they be paying for this benefit? Should the public, because do you know where that money, it goes into their car? It isn't going into the general fund. If they're using that money and that energy They're getting the private benefit. And it could be used for tutoring. It could be used for buying pencils and paper. Realize that all the general fund diverted kilowatt hours could be used for instruction. So we're in a place where we're tightening belts. I'd say tighten belts on the administrators who are getting, if they're getting free electricity, if they're paying the same as the public is, no problem.
Thank you. Now return to the board for discussion. Trustee Conley?
I do have a clarifying question. My understanding is that all of our EV plugs are pay to play, that anyone who plugs in has to pay to use them, yes?
At the time that we installed the EV chargers, the board had decided that they wanted, during the school day, if teachers and staff wanted to charge, that it would be at no charge to them. After hours, it's charged at the rate that we are charged.
Okay. And are we tracking usage at all, or?
We do have a system to track usage.
Thank you.
All right, I'll let you go very soon, but just minor discussion. I think this is a really good update, and I think probably having it regular, maybe not having you come out or anything necessary, but just either a report or like, because I think we get the 2-year guarantee report that we looked at. That might be a good cadence for us to get just a summary. I would really like to see how we're tracking against what our expectations were for it, kind of like with the life cycle of these things and some light bit. But I think other than that, I think it's helpful to give us some consistent way of judging this in the future. But I don't know if folks are. Trustee Conley?
Yeah, I think tied to that, and this is more for Dr. Westover, is the sustainability initiative that we've had around, we were looking things at like light switches, and there were a whole bunch of different areas that we've tackled. It might be, nice to have an update. I know we're about to hit a very busy time of year and our agendas are going to be extremely long. So maybe it's at the beginning of next year on what we've seen in terms of implementation and savings through the sustainability work that we've been doing. And this is a very important piece of this. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you to your coworker for also being part of the presentation and having a drawing to share about what is going on at Landals. It's always it's good to hear about what's going on the ground level. So thank you.
Trustee Lambert?
Just to add to what the other trustees said, I think it's also really good to understand what the ongoing costs are for the district for really almost any project, because this maintenance comes out of our general fund, right? It's one thing, Measure T, one-time deal. Taxpayers pay off for 30 years, but the costs come out all the time, and we have to understand that, and we have to track that. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate in the past having met with me to discuss this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I should have also mentioned, you talked about light switches and efficiency. We always look when we're doing a project like this, and the district had already done very well at a lot of the basic efficiency things. Lights, HVAC, those are the big users, to then add solar on top of it. So we looked at that as well in the process, and the district was in good shape from an energy perspective on all of those things. So thank you all for your service on the board. I know it's a lot of work, and it's really important to the community. So thank you. And she was excited to come to this. So yeah.
I was hoping she'd have some things to say
Do you want to say anything, Kathy?
and share with the public her photo that she drew. Such a great rendition of the panels there at Landals.
Maybe it can be uploaded to the agenda website.
Add it to the notes. Add it to the minutes. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to item 9C, Second Amendment to Lease Agreement. I'll ask Chief. I'll give Dr. Westover a moment. All right. Dr. Westover, second lease agreement.
Sorry, I was a little
Oh,
distracted.
no, it's okay.
This next one is something that has been talked about in closed session a few times, so this should not be unfamiliar, but this is the new lease, second amendment to the lease agreement with us and the German School of Silicon Valley. It's adjusting the lease, providing a longer lease term so they have stability for their school site. Also sets the rent to $2 million a year, paid in equal installments. It also gives us some flexibility in terms of if we need the school back, that the first 5 years, they get the first 5 years to have some stability. And then after that, if we need to reclaim the school because of growth in the district, that we could give them a 3-year notice. It also requires some increases to insurance, which is important, especially in today's insurance market. So we've added some SAM coverage that they're required to carry. And it outlines how we're going to manage future improvements to the site. The German school is very interested in making long-term improvements, but we have to balance that with the need of the district. So if they would like to, let's say, update the MUR, they can update the MUR, but we're going to collaborate on what the MUR is going to look like together. So if we needed to reuse it, the MUR would be something similar to a district standard. It also outlines if they were to overstay their lease, that it would then move to a month to month and their rent would be 200% of the current base rent. Any questions?
Questions from Trustee Conley?
I just wanted to note for the public that this has been agendized in closed session for the board previously. So we have had the chance to talk with legal counsel and staff and everyone engaged regarding the lease agreement.
Seeing no further questions, I'll now open public comment on this item. If any member of the public wishes to speak, turn in a speaker card in person or use the raise hand function online. I'll wait to see how many speakers we have. Seeing no members of the public wishing to speak on this item, I'll now return to the board for discussion or potential action.
I move that the board approve the second amendment to the lease agreement by and between Mountain View Wisdom School District and the German School of Silicon Valley for 310 Easy Street, Mountain View, California.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 9D, declaration of need for fully qualified educators. I believe Superintendent Baer.
Yes, this is looking ahead to next year. This is a declaration that we need to put in place in the event we need to issue any emergency credentials. This we're not anticipating needing to, but this we want to have in place just should that need arise, that we have that ability to do that. We do have to have this in place prior to doing that, and it extends, I believe, for a year, for 12 months each year. So this is an annual declaration that we ask the board to make.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions from the board? I'll now open public comment on this item. If any member of the public wishes to speak, turn in a speaker card in person or use the raise hand function online. I'll wait to see how many speakers we have. Seeing none, I'll now move back to the board for discussion and possible action.
I'm happy to make the motion. Before I do, I assume we'll get an update in the fall on if any of these have had to be used.
We will. Actually, I anticipate we'll probably bring a staffing update at the end of the year, the last meeting in May or first meeting in June. Only meeting in June, I guess.
Thank you. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 2026-27 school year as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We now move to discussion and action item 9E, resolution supporting the recognition of Arab American Heritage Month. Superintendent Baer, will you present the staff report?
Yes, this is a resolution we're providing to the board in honor of Arab American Heritage Month. Important to recognize the importance of honoring the achievements of our Arab American community members and reflecting thoughtfully on the history of pain and oppression they endured and that continues. So we present this resolution for your consideration this evening.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions from the board? Seeing none, I'll open public comment on this item. If any member of the public wishes to speak in person, turn in a speaker card. If anyone remote, please use the raise hand function. Seeing no member of the public wishing to speak, I'll now return to the board for discussion and action.
I move that the board approve resolution number 01041626, supporting the recognition of National Arab American Heritage Month.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now I'll suggest we do a choral reading of the resolution. As promised, I have randomized it this time. So Trustee Conley, you'll be first.
Trustee Reed was all ready to go too. All right. Whereas today, the Arab American Institute estimates that roughly 3.7 million Arab Americans are living in the United States from a variety of faith backgrounds, including both Christians and Muslims, originating from any of the 22 Arabic-speaking countries, and
whereas in the month of April 2026, we continue to honor the rich heritage, history, and contributions of Arab Americans across our country who have helped write the American story and move our nation forward, embodying the truth that diversity has been and always will be our strength, and
whereas persons of Arab descent have throughout their history in the United States generously shared their culture, music, and food with fellow Americans and contributed to the economy and society of the United States, bringing with them resilient family values, strong work ethic, dedication to education, and diversity that have added strength to United States democracy, and
whereas Arab Americans have served the United States as first responders in the public sector and as public servants from all political parties in the United States government, the Congress, the Senate, as ambassadors, cabinet members, as well as all other Arab Americans in uniform today, and
whereas Arab Americans have excelled in science, engineering, medicine, education, scholarship, architecture, sports, entertainment, journalism, literature, and the arts, enriching our national cultural tapestry, and
whereas Arab Americans have and continue to play a critical role in America's social justice and human rights movements, including civil rights, labor organizing, and environmental justice movements, and
whereas Arab American Heritage Month is necessary to address misconceptions, misinformation, Arabophobia, anti-Arabism, and discrimination against Arab Americans by celebrating their accomplishments and providing factual information about Arab American culture and persons, and
whereas in 2021, President Biden became the first sitting United States president to recognize the celebration of National Arab American Heritage Month. And as of 2025, at least 48 states and territories and numerous cities have taken steps to recognize April as National Arab American Heritage Month.
now, therefore, it be resolved that Mountain View Wisman School District supports the recognition of National Arab American Heritage Month and esteems the integral role of Arab Americans in the economy, culture, and identity of the United States, and
therefore be it further resolved that the Mountain View Wisman School District Board of Trustees adopts resolution number 01-041626 to encourage the recognition of National Arab American Heritage Month in the schools of the district during the month of April, with culturally responsive activities and programs that recognize and celebrate the unique contributions of Arab Americans now and always.
thank you. Now we will move on to discussion and action item 9F, CSBA Delegate Assembly Runoff Election, Region 20. Superintendent Bear.
So I'll hand this off quickly to you. Based on the election that occurred, I think it was last meeting, end of March. Yeah, end of March. There's a runoff necessary, and you have the ballot for that. So I'll let you discuss, consider, and hopefully take action on that.
Any clarifying questions from the board? I'll move to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak on this item, in person, turn in a speaker card, and online, use the raise hand function. Seeing no one wishing to speak on this, I'll now return to the board for discussion.
I'll
comment?
just note that we have 4 delegate positions that were open for the California School Boards Association. 3 of those are filled. These 2 trustees, Elizabeth Halliday with Campbell Union High School District and Jody Muirhead, who's an incumbent with the Santa Clara Unified School District, were tied. And so that's what the runoff is for. The results have to be, our ballot has to be submitted by April 30th. And I'm going to abstain from a vote on this because I'm the director for the region and will be working directly with whoever is elected.
Wish to discuss or propose a vote? I think if I recall, last time we voted for the incumbent is my recollection. Just to set the stage for folks. I don't know if anyone has any opinions they'd like to share. Or...
Going to take a roll call vote, or
I believe we would have to. I guess we could straw poll, or someone could motion to approve a candidate.
I would support Elizabeth Halliday.
Go down the line, I guess. Trustee Reed.
I think going with our original vote of Jody Muirhead.
Vice President Henry.
I think they're both highly qualified in the runoff situation. I would say Elizabeth Halliday.
And then I guess to me, I believe in the. Yeah, I'd agree that they're both well qualified candidates. But yeah, I think in the final balloting, taking this, I think I would vote for Elizabeth Halliday. So I think that makes 3-1. But I guess we have our do we have a motion?
I move that the board vote for Elizabeth Halliday in the runoff election for the final candidate for Region 20.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously with Trustee Conley abstaining. With that, we'll move on to our board updates, I believe. Okay. Any member of the board like to provide an update since the last meeting? Trustee Lambert.
So I promise the kids and the teacher in the moot court that I'd mentioned them. I won't take any credit for anything, but I did sit in and at least listen to them for a couple of sessions last week. Anyway, tomorrow they are off to UCLA Law School to compete in the state moot court competition. A great group of kids. Teacher Miss Dillon just did man, the energy that woman has, really good. I mean, so it's all sort of think about it on Saturday.
That's an incredible achievement. Their first time out, even getting this far. So, Trustee Reed.
I attended Castro Science Night this evening, and there was a lot of community members out there enjoying the hands-on experiments. It was great to see. They had a bioluminescence exhibit that you went in the dark, and every single grade level was represented in that room with their projects, all to the theme of bioluminescence and marine life. So it's great to see that all grades were kind of working on something similar. And the projects that they had going on, they had a little maker space, they had some science experiments that were hands-on that were run through various volunteers and staff, and Stanford was there doing a couple of things for them. There was lots of food and just excitement with the students wanting to share things with parents, and then also parents wanting to talk to and um, share their excitement with me and talk about other things that they have going on at the school that they were excited to share about. So it was great to see Principal Taylor and several of his staff members and the work that they put into this evening.
Conley?
Yeah, it's been a while since our last regular meeting. I went to the California School Board Association's Board of Directors meeting at the end of March in Sacramento, and I will be emailing you all the updates that I can share from that meeting so that you have kind of the legislative and the federal updates. And I did want to let you know the letter that was sent in support by our board of the 4-bill package for closing the achievement gap at the state level, that CSBA is co-sponsoring these bills, AB 225, AB 2514, AB 2149, and AB 2202. Those bills made it through committee, which is great. So now they're on to the next opportunity for for review and discussion in the assembly. So I will try to keep you apprised of those bills as they continue to move forward, but I wanted to share that. And then I hope everyone has signed up for the Hoffman Awards to attend, and that we have some of our staff who've been working so hard this year there, because that's going to be a great celebration of the work that our literacy intervention team has been doing.
Vice President Henry?
I'll just add, since our last meeting, I've attended the Masters in Governance Course 3, School Finance, where I was able to pull out my printed copy of our second interim. So great discussion with a small group of trustees and administrators, demystifying SACS codes and other things. So things that I can bring to our budget discussion in a few weeks.
All right, thank you. Oh, Superintendent Bear?
Yeah, I just wanted to let the board know, recognizing that our accuracy with AV growth projections are really critical to our financial success as a school district. Been working with Dr. Westover and reaching out. She's reached out to the city of Mountain View to understand how they approach as well. And we are likely going to engage with the same consultant they use to give an accurate projection to our out years, especially since we're looking, further out or trying to understand the trajectory of our reserve level and deficit spend further out. Our AV growth is critical to that. So we want to make sure we have some added expertise and hopefully added precision around that. So I just want to give you a heads up about that you'll see a contract for that in the very near future. I think April 30, right? Yep.
Yes, I think also important.
Anything to add? Yeah.
Yeah, also important to note is we had a good discussion at the Budget Advisory Committee meeting talking about AV growth specifically. And really, it's a very intense, if you want to do it right, it is a very intense process. And which is why HDL it was also recommended by a member of our Budget Advisory Committee.
All right, with that, now move to items for future agendas. Any board member want to propose? Trustee Conley?
I just want to let the board know that I'm hoping that with some collaboration, we'll bring an item regarding technology use in the district, a resolution for the board to look at, hopefully in May.
Thank you. Now, moving on to future board meeting dates. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for April 30th, 2026. Additional upcoming meetings, May 14th and May 28th. Any further business? Hearing none, having reached the end of the agenda, the meeting is adjourned at 8:35 p.m. and the next regular meeting is scheduled for April 30th, 2026.